Hey there. Welcome. Ever just stop and think about how we manage to figure out really, really complex stuff? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a journey from the absolute basics of learning all the way to the incredible digital tools that let us build, well, shared brains.
It really all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're learning to code, picking up a new language, or even trying to wrap your head around the universe. The problem is always the same. How do you take this massive, overwhelming thing and actually make it make sense?
So, to get to the bottom of that, we've got to start at the very beginning. Before we can even talk about all the cool collaborative tech we have now, we need to understand the fundamental timeless process of how we learn in the first place. Okay, let's dive into this because this map right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Now, when a linguist discovers a language they've never heard before, they don't just start guessing at words. No way. They have a system. They take the huge, messy complexity of an entire language and they break it down into tiny, manageable pieces. And it's basically a three-step process. First, they just listen. They capture the smallest possible units, the sounds. Then they start to figure out, okay, where does one word stop and the next one start? And only after all that do they begin to piece together the rules, the grammar of it all. It's this very conscious, very deliberate way of starting small to understand the whole big system. But here's the thing, that's only half the story. Because, while we're doing all this structured, methodical learning, our brains are also doing some absolutely incredible work just under the surface. And that's where implicit memory comes in. This is the stuff we learn without even realizing we're learning it. It's just automatically happening. Our brains are literally hardwired with these learning shortcuts that are totally unconscious. Take something as simple as color. Our brains evolved over millions of years to automatically flag colors like red and yellow as important. Think ripe fruit or a dangerous animal. It's a survival instinct that helps us learn and remember without any conscious effort at all. So the big takeaway here is that learning is this two-part dance. It's structured and deliberate, but it's also totally innate and biological. But what happens when the thing we're trying to understand is completely beyond our direct experience? What happens when our own senses are the problem? To explore that, let's take a quick trip to a place called Flatland. So imagine a universe where beings only exist on a two-dimensional plane. They get forward and backward, left and right, but the idea of up or down, it's just nonsense to them. It's totally alien. For them, a shape is only the edge they can see. Now, imagine one day, something impossible happens. An object just appears, out of nowhere. It's a complete mystery. It breaks all the known laws of their 2D universe. Their physics has absolutely no explanation for it. From their limited 2D perspective, what they see is a single point that just appears, grows into a line, gets to its longest point, then shrinks back to a point, and poof, it's gone. To them, it's this impossible object that can actually change its own shape. But what they can't possibly grasp is that it's just an ordinary, unchanging 3D sphere passing right through their world. And here is the big reveal. We are the Flatlanders. Our three-dimensional perception, it's a filter too. Just like that 2D being can never truly grasp the depth of a 3D object, our understanding of, say, a fourth dimension will always just be a shadow, a projection. We're always leaving out crucial information. Our individual learning has hard physical limits. So, if our individual minds are all limited, kind of like the Flatlanders, how in the world do we solve problems that are just too complex for any one person? Well, the answer is pretty cool. We build a shared brain. And today, our shared brains are digital. Platforms like GitHub and Hugging Face. These aren't just websites. They are the modern answer to our own perceptual limits. They're these huge, living, collaborative ecosystems where millions of people can pool a different perspectives to build and understand things that would be way too complex for any single one of us. And the scale we're talking about here is just staggering. Get this. In just the past 12 months, GitHub's collaborative security features stopped over 8.3 million potential secret leaks. That's the power of having millions of eyes on the same problem. And it's the same story over at Hugging Face. You've got over 1 million machine learning models just sitting there. It's not just a storage site. It's a massive shared library of AI building blocks that anyone, anywhere in the world can use and build on top of. So we have these fundamental principles of learning, right? And we have these incredibly powerful shared tools. But what does it look like when it all comes together? Let's check out a real-world example of how a modern creator puts it all into practice. So this is Network Chuck, and his philosophy, which is inspired by the book Building a Second Brain, just nails our theme perfectly. He says his mind isn't for storing ideas, it's for having them. The whole point is to get them out into the world. And here's his pipeline. It's so cool. An idea starts as just a quick note in an app. Then automation kicks in and turns that note into a website. Then he pushes it to GitHub, our shared brain, to keep track of changes. And finally, it's automatically published to the web. It's this perfect marriage of individual creativity and powerful collective tools. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone from the very basics of how our brains are wired to learn, to the hard limits of our own perception, and finally to the amazing collaborative tools we're building to see past those limits. So, what does it all mean? This final slide brings it all home so perfectly. This is a French infographic about teaching, and it lays out this timeless 4-step process for learning: prepare, anticipate, realize, and evaluate. And what's amazing is that's the exact same fundamental pipeline that creators like Network Chuck are using today. They've just supercharged it with modern tools. The core principles of mastering complexity, they never change. Which brings us right back to that huge final question. Just like the Flatlander, are we fundamentally limited by our senses? Is reality itself actually more than we can ever perceive? And maybe, just maybe, as we keep building these ever more powerful shared brains, what new dimensions of understanding are we about to unlock?